right, it's good to see everyone. Very thankful to see that we have visitors that are with us. You have not met our two visitors that walked in here earlier tonight. We're very blessed and thankful to have you with us. If you have any questions about what we do in worship, what we do as far as like what you've observed and what you've seen, please feel free to ask me, ask Chris. You can ask one of our men here who'd be willing to sit down and answer some questions that you might have. But we're very thankful and blessed that you're with us tonight. We are actually in the book of Matthew, and we're in chapter 5, and we, in our Wednesday night class, have been going through the life of Christ. And we're taking this moment, at least from chapters 5 to chapter 7 in the book of Matthew, to go through, at least class by class, bit by bit, section by section of the Sermon on the Mount. And I think it's good that we can do that. We're trying to kill two birds with one stone. We get the Sermon on the Mount study as well as the rest of the life of Christ. And so I probably see us maybe, if the good Lord wills, finishing this Life of Christ class probably in the year 2036. Joking, maybe not. Maybe it won't take another 10 years. But I'm sure probably definitely it'll take another couple years or so, if the good Lord wills. But we are in Matthew chapter 5 in the Sermon on the Mount. And in the context, Jesus has been speaking about bringing up at least 6 different contrasts, at least from what the Jewish readers and listeners at the time understood, because these 6 contrasts have teachings that go back to the old law, but it also contains how it is that the Pharisees had taught it to the people of those days. And so in chapter 5, or at least the whole Sermon on the Mount, what is the key verse?
Wait a minute, what?
What is the key verse of the Sermon on the Mount?
Something about being righteous.
20.
Verse 20, thank you, Chris. Yes, verse 20. Can I get somebody to go ahead and read verse 20? What does verse 20 say? Braden, you're right. It does have something to do with righteousness.
For I say to you that unless your righteousness surpass that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yes.
Personal relationship.
All right. So, what kind of a righteousness that we need to have in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, according to what verse 20 says?
Better than the scribes.
Better than the scribes and Pharisees. Okay, yes. So, Jesus calls us, he gives us a standard that we need to live by that's different from the world, and a standard that is far different from the scribes and Pharisees. We're held to a higher standard, because this standard that Christ wants us to live by is whose righteousness? Christ, God's righteousness, yes. So God's righteousness that we are to live by, and so that is a higher standard. It is not a righteousness that is according to me. It's not what I think righteousness is. It's not what the Pharisees think righteousness is, because their righteousness was all about outward or inward appearance. Outward, yes, thank you. We have a visitor here. Already answered the question. Yeah, man, I like that. All right, yes, so outward appearances is what they were mainly focused on, but the standard of God, his righteousness, involves an inward change as well. Inward and outward. Pharisees were so concerned about outward, they really didn't care about the inside, because in the inside they were hypocrites and they were inconsistent with their teachings. They didn't follow their own laws. They didn't follow even their own traditions. And so in these 6 contrasts that Jesus gives, beginning at verse 21 all the way through verse 48 of Matthew 5, we are now arriving at least the 6th one. But before we get into the 6th and final contrast, which is verse 43 through 48, we need to finish up what we were discussing last Wednesday. And so if you still have your handout sheet, we are actually answering question number 3. Which is, what are the 4 examples that Jesus gave when he said, do not resist the evil one? And so we are looking at verses 39 through 42.
So are you asking for the 4 things?
Asking for the 4 things is right there in the text. Yes, it's right there in the text.
Who slaps
Don't-
you
There you go.
Who takes a suit against you.
Takes a suit against
or
you.
forces you to go another mile.
Yep.
Let's see, I was going by my paper now.
Right there, verse 42 is the last one.
Do not turn away from him.
Whoever asks you, give him
It's about a handshake with the other chick.
what he wants to borrow.
Yes, she already said that. Yeah. And so, yes, the giving. Yes, the give one to the one who begs. Okay, so he's using these 4 examples right here because in the context, what is Jesus discussing?
Like somebody to do something to you.
Yes, when somebody does something to you, our human nature says what?
Do it back.
Do it back. Do it back. And so Jesus, in the 5th contrast that he makes, is verse 38. He says, you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Now again, that is something that the old law taught. But how were the Pharisees teaching it? The old law taught that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. In the context from the passage that we read the words judge, witness. What setting is that? Court. Yes, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth was to be done in a civil court. It was to be done by the civil government, basically. It's talking about capital punishment, okay? That is what the context was in the Old Testament. It was never to be done in what kind of a way? Personal retaliation, yes. It was never to be done in your own hands. Why? Why is it wrong? Or why? Let me ask the question this way. Why did God not want us to take the retaliation into our own hands?
Because
We wouldn't know when to stop.
Say that again?
We wouldn't know when to stop.
We wouldn't know when to stop. And then so yes, in a way, it was to limit punishment. Okay? Because you may have one person that took out one eye of yours, but you would take his eye out and you'd say, no, that's not enough. That's not enough. I still want him to suffer, and you take the other eye out. But then why stop there? Why not take the nose? Why not take the ears? You see the point? We wouldn't know when to stop. And we see that happening throughout the world all the time. I mean, somebody ends up, bumping into somebody, doesn't say, excuse me, and that guy gets really mad, and he jumps on that guy and starts beating him down senselessly. I told you about that video that I saw on the Law and Crime YouTube channel, where a man was doing that. The guy bumped into him.
That man's just angry.
Yeah, that man's
No
just,
way,
yes.
If you just bumped someone and you didn't say, excuse me, that would be fair or even. That is just you hit the wrong guy the wrong day.
Yep.
Well,
I mean,
that had nothing to do with why he plummeted him. I don't think.
well, I mean, the thing is that whether the guy had an anger issue, I mean, that
Who
needs to be
knows
resolved
what
on
was
the
going
inside.
with him? Yeah.
Yes, but still, it doesn't give him any,
No.
authority to jump the guy and beat him. I mean,
None.
his friend, the clerk, was trying to grab him and trying to pull him off, saying, oh, dude, the guy had enough. Just stop. And he's shoving his friends in the clerk store out of the way, and he gets on top of the guy again and starts beating him even more. And it's like, now that guy's actually doing time in jail. Yep, did a follow-up on that. And then so, yeah, he's got 15 years in prison now. Yep, all because of that.
watch too much
And so,
wrestling.
yeah, I don't know what his anger, but he does have an anger problem. Absolutely,
Yes.
need to be resolved. But anyway, so yes, it is to limit punishment and to enact justice in the civil court. And then so, if somebody does something to you wrong, Jesus says that, yeah, you have the authority to take it to the court system. Don't try to put it into your own hands. Don't try to take matters into your own hands and personally retaliate, because obviously you probably won't know when to stop, and also it's wrong. It's wrong to do it. That's not what eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth was all about. It was never about personal retaliation or personal vengeance. It was about law and order in the courtroom. Okay, so then the 4 examples that he gives about not taking any personal retaliation. Well, hold on, before we go any further, let me also emphasize that the Pharisees taught, how they taught that was that you were allowed to take matters into your own hand under 5 different categories. There's only 5 categories in which that you were allowed to take matters into your own hands. This is what the Pharisees taught. Damage, pain, medical costs, loss of livelihood, and humiliation. Those are the 5 things. And here's what's a little bit intriguing about those 5 things, those 5 categories. What does those 5 categories basically summarize?
Everything.
Everything! Basically everything. They'd say you can't take retaliation in your own hands unless it's for these 5 categories. That basically summarizes up everything. But that's what they taught. And sadly, Jesus gives those examples by relaying it to a slap on the face. If a man slaps you on one cheek, on the right side, what are you to do? Turn your cheek. Now, here's where we see pain and humiliation. Because a slap on the right side of the cheek would involve what?
Backhand.
A backhand. There you go. Yes. Yes. There's no power in doing that. So obviously, if you're getting slapped on the right side of your cheek, most people were dominant right-handed. And so in order to do that, they'd have to backhand you. So that's a double insult right there. And so Jesus says what? What are you to do?
I got a question for you.
Okay, hold on to that question. Yep, because we're trying to move it along here. What's that?
Turn the other cheek.
Turn the other cheek. Okay, example number 1. Turn the other cheek. So what does the real world tell you to do if you get slapped on the face?
Slap him back.
Slap them back. Yes, slap them back. We live in a society for a very long time, not just hundreds of years ago, but even to today, where men believe that they have to protect their dignity and their honor. And so what does a gentleman, or how does a gentleman or a man protect his honor when he gets slapped in the face? Slaps him back. Yes, slaps him right back. And so this wasn't a personal affront, a personal insult. And so the injury that results is not an injury to one's body, but an injury to one's self-esteem. Yes, pride, humiliation. And so, but here's the thing though. When somebody slaps you, is it life-threatening? No, it's not. Just like when somebody bumps into you on the store by accident, doesn't say, excuse me, is that life-threatening? No, it's not. It's humiliating, but the principle of what Jesus is saying is this: do not be so concerned about yourself. Do not be so concerned about yourself. That's the principle. Do not be overly concerned about your so-called rights.
Would this kind of be leading along the thought of God will be our judge and he will do the punishment and whatever instead of us judging and making up our mind what we should do about it and take it in our own hands?
Yeah, yes it is. I mean, that's definitely implied from the text, is that vengeance belongs to the Lord. And so that is a knowledge that we need to be aware about and that we truly need to have with a deep conviction and truly believing and knowing that God will make things right in the end. But now, here's what's going to be interesting though, is that right after Jesus talks about do not retaliate, verse 43 through 48, he's going to talk about love your enemies. And so it's good that we need to have a knowledge that vengeance belongs to God. I mean, Paul says that, Jesus says that, Peter says that, vengeance belongs to the Lord. He will repay. But in the meantime, what should we be doing to our enemies? Loving them. Not only loving them, but even praying for them. I want you to think about some enemies that you may have right now. Have you been praying for them? Do you pray for their salvation? Are you willing to step out of your comfort zone by any means and actually help your enemies if they need help? All right, what's that?
It's harder to do than to say.
Oh, absolutely. It's easier said than done. I mean, it's easy and simple to understand, it's simple to understand, but not easy to do. There we go. That's simple to understand, but not easy to do.
It could make a really big difference, though.
It can make a big difference.
And make someone see, here I was ugly to that person, and look,
Yes. And you see, that is what we hope to accomplish. That kind of gets us into question number 4 in the handout sheet. What do we hope to accomplish by not retaliating? Bring him towards God? Yes. Point him to Christ? Bring him to Jesus? Yes, absolutely. That's what we hope to accomplish. That's what we hope to accomplish by simply not retaliating. And so, if any person slaps you in the face or gives you any kind of insult, yes, it may be humiliating, it may be embarrassing, but it's not life-threatening. Instead, what you should do is turn the other cheek and actually pray for that person and actually even help them if they have any need whatsoever. Again, simple to understand, but not easy to do. Now, the other examples that he gives is that if somebody would sue you, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, and if anyone begs from you, do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. So, if anyone would sue you and take your tunic. Now, here is one who is wanting to wipe you out to the point that the only thing that you have is the shirt on your back. Well, if somebody would sue you and leaves you with nothing but the shirt on your back, what does Jesus tell you to do?
Give him the shirt.
Give him the shirt. Give him the shirt as well. Now,
That would be hard.
that would be very hard. But Jesus, the point of what he's trying to make here, he's trying to narrow it down to the fact that you only have 2 options. You can return evil with evil by taking revenge and getting back your tunic, or return evil with good by doing what? By giving it to them. Yep. Now again, keep in context here that Jesus is talking about personal vengeance and personal retaliation. Okay? All right. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, now, obviously this was a phrase that was often used by the Romans, and it was something that the Jewish audience there understood quite well. And so I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a pop quiz. This whole forcing you to go 1 mile, what's that all about?
I think it was like wasn't it something where if a Roman soldier asked you to do something, then you got to stop what you're doing right then and go do it?
Yes, absolutely. There you go, Braden. Yes, if a Roman soldier was carrying a bunch of bags and a bunch of luggage, and they did quite often, and if you just so happen to be a Jew standing by, guess what the Roman soldier is going to do?
Yeah.
He's going to pick on you. He's going to tell you to stop whatever it is that you're doing. Even if you have a whole bunch of screaming kids with you, they're not going to care about that. They say, stop what you're doing right now. I need you to carry this baggage with me 1 mile.
Or carry
And
this
the
cross.
Jews knew that very well because the Romans abused them of that.
Or
Abused them heavily.
That was Roman law.
It was a Roman law.
They had to.
And so they had to.
Or carry
And
this
so,
cross.
but here's the thing. So now, Jesus tells them this. When a Roman soldier tells you to do that, what are you to do? Go to. Man, I see Biggie shaking her head like saying, oh, why? I'm sure the Jews were saying that as well. Why? What?
I can take the kids with me. He can carry the kids.
Oh, man. And so putting yourself in the shoes of a Jew at that time. I mean, you're being oppressed by these people, by these Romans, this government right here. And you're already, struggling to have to do this 1 mile law. And so, Jesus, you're telling me that I need to go another mile? Jesus says yes. Oh, yeah. That is humiliating. You see how, these 4 examples, fit these 5 categories of what the Pharisees were teaching? Chris?
Yeah, but the whole thing is, even if you don't turn their heart toward God, you've shown them what a Christian should act like.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
It is the whole point.
Get them to see that Christians are different from everybody else.
That's right.
In that way.
That's right. And it's returning evil with good. Yep. And I think, it's safe to say that this 2 miles or this extra mile would even say that, hey, when you've done this good thing in return, even though this person has mistreated you, do it again a second time. Yep.
kill them.
Yes,
with
do it
kindness.
again. Yes, kill them with kindness. That's what it's all about. I mean, Paul says at the end of Romans chapter 12, right there, right around in verse 18 through the end of the chapter, he says, so far as it depends on you, live at peace with all men. Vengeance belongs to the Lord. Do not return evil with evil, but return evil with good, for it will heap up burning coals on the head of your enemy. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. And I say this 2 miles right here. If your enemy is thirsty, give him 2 drinks. If your enemy is hungry, give him 2 loaves of bread. When I say drinks, I'm talking about water, okay? Yes. Let me clarify that. I want to clarify that. All right. So, yes, give him 2 bottles of water. Give him 2 loaves of bread. Go the extra mile in returning evil with good. Then, this last one, he says, give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. Now, the reason the person begs and wants to borrow is because they are in a tough spot financially. Does it seem that you ever know that one person that just seems to always comes and begs for money, or that always seems to borrow things, they never return it? I know I started off last Wednesday with that example of me working on the reservation as a missionary, and we have this little pod shed there that contains all the tools that we have, and one person in the neighborhood came by, asked to borrow something, one of the tools, and I said, yeah, go for it. Never saw it since. I never saw that, and I never saw him ever since. And so there's going to be those people that are going to just seem to be constantly in a tough spot financially. And so here's a question. What does this have to do with not retaliating?
It's
Because
hard
you
to
just let him
yeah,
have it.
yeah, it's hard to just continue to give somebody,
Yeah.
and they do the same thing over and over, and after a while, you're like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yes. Maybe you have someone that has not been kind to you, coming to you asking for help. I mean, think of some family members that you may have, or close friends that you have, who always seems to stir up trouble in the family, who always seems to cause problems in the family. But then when times come and they're in a tough spot financially, you're the one that they go to. Mainly because they know that you're a Christian. So Jesus is even putting you in that position right there. What are you going to do? Help them out. And I can understand this, brothers and sisters. I can understand the difficulty. I can understand how hard and how frustrating it can be at times.
Well, do you think you should always help them, depending on the circumstance?
I think there comes a point in which that you're allowed to sit down with them and tell them that there are conditions that need to be met before that we can keep assisting and keep helping you financially. Yeah, I mean, if the thing is that if they're not doing anything, I mean,
exactly.
You
can enable people.
Yes, if they're not doing anything, and if they're enablers, then
right.
Yes, absolutely. But now in this case, in this situation, Jesus is talking about somebody that you probably know who has been unkind to you, but yet now they're in a tough spot, but they're all out of options. And they know you're Christians, and then so they come to you for assistance and for aid. And so Jesus says, what do? Are you going to sit down with them and give them a lecture? Saying, yeah, how the mighty have fallen. You are saying all this, garbage about me, my wife, my family, causing up all this problems, all this issues and everything. And then so now you're able to sit down with them and give them a lecture. Is that what Jesus says to do?
You shouldn't do that.
No.
Regardless of what they do.
No. Jesus says, give them. Give and help them. Even though they treat you horribly, again, Jesus says, return evil with good by helping them. And again, what is the motive and the purpose behind us returning evil with good? Turn them towards God. That is what we are hoping to accomplish, folks. And yes, we can sit here and we can just keep going and rolling in our minds saying like, man, I don't know what Cory's talking about. I don't know what that preacher's talking about. Man, I just, I get sick and tired of it because it just seems that like he's wanting us to turn them into enablers. No, your goal is not to turn them into an enabler. Your goal is to bring them to Christ. That is what our goal is and our objective is to bring them to Christ. And yes, if that involves you having to sit down with them and actually lay out some of these conditions with them, I mean, it may come to a point saying that, hey, I'll be willing to assist and help you, but here's a condition. You got to have 7 weeks of Bible studies with me.
Or you got to fill out a
You
job.
can do that. Yes.
Or you got to fill out a job application.
What's that?
Where you got to fill out the job application.
Or fill out a job application. And so, yes, I mean, that is in our situation that we can do to sit down to actually help them not become an enabler. But again, our point and our goal of what we want to do is that we wanted to return evil with good. Double good. Go that extra mile. Go that extra goodness. So that we can bring them to Jesus Christ. And even though that in these cases, these examples that Jesus gave, these may be enemies doing this to us, which why he now brings us to that last contrast in verses 43 through 48. Somebody go ahead and read that.
You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemies. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so? Therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect.
All right. Now, verse 48 has been quoted quite a bit by many preachers, by many in our brotherhood. Therefore be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Does he mean that you need to be living a perfect life? But he says be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. God's perfect and sinless. Is that what Jesus is talking about?
Was on earth that was perfect was Jesus. You can't, the devil's here. And he's putting all your roadblocks up. You can't be perfect.
Nobody can be perfect.
Try to be.
Yeah.
You can try to
The
strive
best
for
that
it,
you can
but you
be.
can't be perfect.
Yes, you can. But obviously we do have other passages like 1 John chapter 1, verse 5 through 9 that simply tells us that nobody's perfect, that we're going to sin. If anybody says that he that he has no sin, he is a liar and he's deceiving himself and the truth is not in him. That's what John says there in 1 John chapter 1, verse 5 through 9. And so no, Christ is not talking about perfect as in a sinless lifestyle. So if that's not the case, then what is he talking about?
Perfect in the image of God.
Perfect in the image of God, and God is what?
Righteous.
God is righteous. What does the
Graceful.
graceful? There's another one that I'm looking for.
Forgiving.
Forgiving. Looking at the text, what's that?
Loving.
Loving. There we go. So love. Yes. So loving. All those characteristics. What's your name again?
Zach.
That Zach brought up. Thank you, Zach. Are all true about God. But now, in the context of what Jesus is talking about, he is talking about God. I mean, perfect in the image of God, as far as his character of love, because God loves not only those who love him, but he loves also who?
The other guy, the bad guy.
Yes, he loves his enemies as well. And so you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Now let's look back over, because this was an Old Testament law. At least the first part of it is from the Old Testament law. Looking at Leviticus chapter 19. Go back to Leviticus chapter 19. Looking at Leviticus chapter 19. Can I get somebody to read verse 18?
You shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord.
All right, thank you. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Now, when you compare that with Matthew chapter 5, you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and what?
Love your neighbor.
No,
Hate your enemy. Hold on a minute. I don't read anything about hating your enemy here in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. Huh. How about that? You want to know why you don't read it in there? It's because it was never said.
Not there.
It's not there. So, why were they hearing love your enemy, or excuse me, love your neighbor but hate your enemy? Who were the ones teaching them again? The Pharisees. The Pharisees added that phrase, and hate your enemy, to God's law. They added it. Because when you look at Leviticus 19, verse 18, look at the verse above it. What does verse 17 say?
You shall hate your fellow countrymen.
You shall not.
No. Took that out again.
You shall what? You shall not
Hate your fellow countrymen.
fellow countrymen
In your heart.
in your heart.
You may surely reprove your neighbor, but shall not incur sin because of him.
That's right.
Incur.
So the Pharisees had added that phrase, and hate your enemy. It's because that phrase, and hate your enemy, is not found in the Old Testament. And the Pharisees taught this to the Jews because they took this, Leviticus 19, verse 18, and they say that if you love your fellow countryman or fellow Jew, then you have permission to hate your enemy. Now, this was known as the community rule among the Jews. And this community rule was taught by the Pharisees and the rabbis in the Talmud. And the community rule, which is also known as the manual of discipline, says this. It says that the members of the community are to seek God. They are to love those within the community and hate those outside of it. Obviously, the community that they're referring to is the community of the Jewish people. That's what the Pharisees taught. This, what we see here, is an example about the principle of silence. You know, God never said, hate your enemies. And because of that, the Pharisees thought that it was okay to hate your enemies. We see a lot of issues about that today, do we not? Yes, within a lot of teachings, a lot of arguments and teachings and viewpoints. Well, God never said that, so then it must give me permission to do it. Well, if God is silent on it, he's silent on it for a reason.
Instrumental music.
Instrumental music, yes, is the thing.
That's one of them.
Yes, the New Testament, all the examples and the commands in the New Testament teach that we are to sing a cappella. And we're not to add anything to God's worship. And people today will say, well, God never said it's you're not allowed to use it. Well, he never said that it's not allowed for me to just fill and pump myself with meth and heroin. But is it okay for me to do it? No, it's not. It's not. And so the principle of silence, and the Pharisees did this. Just because God never said, hate your enemy, they thought it was okay to hate their enemy. And it also seemed that they have overlooked Deuteronomy chapter 23. You're still there back in the Old Testament. Turn to Deuteronomy 23. Deuteronomy 23. What does it say in verse 7?
You shall not detest an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not detest an Egyptian, because you were an alien in his land.
All right, you shall not detest. What does that mean?
Not like.
Despise.
Yeah, despise, hate. Absolutely, yes. You shall not hate an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not hate an Egyptian. Again, putting yourself in the sandals of the Jewish people, they are familiar with Egyptians because what did the Egyptians do to them? Enslaved them for 400 plus years, and God says, you shall not hate them. But yet, here we are, around maybe 28, 29 AD, roughly, approximately. Jesus given this teaching, and he's telling them to not hate your enemies. He's telling them to love them. Now, I think we'll just go ahead and end it on that note because the bell did ring. But Jesus tells us to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And I'd say that this right here is definitely a righteousness that far surpasses the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. Because they say, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. But Jesus says, love your neighbor and love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you.
I did want to add the thing about the drugs. He does say, and I don't remember exactly what verse, but he says, keep a sober mind.
Mm-hmm.
Sober-minded.
Yeah,
That's
sober-minded.
That's
That's right.
exactly right.
Exactly right.
Plus, you're
Sober-minded.
supposed to not hurt the temple, which is your body, 'cause
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you're not supposed to hurt your body.
You're not, and all those are correct.
Right.
And I mean, I've talked with old high school friends of mine that are still weed smokers and everything, and that's one of their arguments they use is that well, God never said that it's not okay for me to use it, and so I think that gives them permission to go ahead and use it. Yeah. But no, I mean, if the Bible says keep a sober mind, always be sober-minded. And the Bible also says, treat your body as a temple of the Holy Spirit. It should obviously imply that you don't need to be filling your mind and your body with things that are going to destroy it.
And the Israelites, when you were talking about they were enslaved under the Egyptians, but when they left and went with Moses and them, when it would get tough in the desert and all that, well, they said, well, we've been better off staying back in Egypt because we can have our things that they like there, vegetables or whatever it was, and and they were ready to go back. So maybe it's like
They forgot about
they
all
about that slavery.
At least we had some good fruit and vegetables. We got some good fish there. Yeah,
But
not quail and manna all the time. And so, I mean, obviously you see the inconsistency with their lifestyle, with their behavior and attitude. But obviously Christ calls us to a higher standard. I mean, this is the lesson that I want everybody to take away this evening, is that I know we kind of dug in and looked at a lot of good information from the text, but really the overall point of what Jesus is saying is do not be overly concerned about yourself. The world does not revolve all around you, okay? Secondly, be good to others, especially your enemies. Love them and pray for them. Those are the two main lessons in simple terms that I want you to leave here tonight with. We good? Is there any clarity? All right, awesome. Well, appreciate everybody, your questions, your participation. Thank you again, visitors, for coming. I mean, we'd love to have you back with us. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to stick around, ask me, or ask Chris or any of our men that are available. If there's not anything else, we're dismissed.